Good morning and welcome to another episode of Drew's Book Review. So today we are talking about the fourth and final book in the Hyperion Cantos, The Rise of Endymion. So if you're interested, stay tuned. Okay, so what can I say about The Rise of Endymion? Other than this book was fantastic. 5-star review on Goodreads, easily. And just really loved it. So to start, let's just talk about some of the absurdity in this book. I mean, check this out. So, as I'm reading Dan Simmons' book, Rise of Endymion, some absurd stuff comes up. Like, I don't know, flying through the sky in a kayak at the upper layers of a gas giant world's atmosphere. And of course, what happens while you're in this flying kayak? A storm comes along. It starts to rain and flash lightning and all kinds of crazy stuff. Now, the funny thing is, and through this absurdity, we've got these cuttlefish-like creatures flying through the sky, coming at you and maybe even talking to you. Somehow he manages to do this in a serious tone without it coming across as funny like in Hitchhiker's Guide or Discworld. Funny that, eh? So there is some crazy stuff that goes on in this book, as you just seen here, and that was kind of probably one of my funnest parts of the book overall. But still, even with some of the absurdity that we find within this book, Dan Simmons still manages to have this kind of serious tone to it. So how the story is told is it's told from the perspective of Raoul Endymion. And it starts out with him explaining how he's in this Schrodinger's prison ship. So it's a Schrodinger's box, basically. It is in orbit around this planet. He is in complete isolation, trapped in this small box orbiting this planet where he could die at any moment because it's just waiting for this one particular quantum signature particle to be detected before releasing this poison gas into his prison, killing him. And while he's in isolation here, he's been in this situation for over a year. He's writing his memoirs, basically. He's telling his story about what happened, how he got to that point, and his eventual escape from this prison. So the whole story is told from Raoul's perspective, Raoul Endymion's perspective. But the main story is about Ania. She is the daughter of Bramia from one of the original books. She is this merger between the artificial ultimate intelligence and humanity. She is in effect this demigod persona. So the ultimate intelligence, AI, being, we can allegorically think of that as God in this sense. Well, Ania is basically this Christ figure. But what's really cool about this is she is this kind of this antichrist Christ figure. She's going up against the Catholic Church, who has in effect taken control of the galaxy in this strict theocratic regime. And part of this control is the cruciform, which is like this parasitic technological biological entity which embeds itself in the chest of its host and enables them to complete these resurrection cycles. So there is no true death. When you die, you're simply resurrected again by the cruciform. And this is so that you can continue to live over and over again. So the cruciform, or the cross, symbolic of the resurrection that Christ brought in the Christian theology to the people, so that people could have that hope to live again. But this has also caused mankind to basically stagnate and not be able to progress any further than where they're at now. And it's also enabled the church to have complete dominance and control, because anybody who wants to live again has to be indoctrinated into the religion to accept the cross or accept the cruciform so that they could be resurrected. And then Ania comes along. She's been basically engineered biologically, genetically, technologically to be this virus that spreads throughout the galaxy through her genetics that basically kills and destroys the cruciform. So if anybody who becomes infected by her that has accepted the cross or accepted the cruciform, that cruciform will die and it will kill it, meaning that those individuals can now have the true death, that once they're dead, they are gone. And this is just kind of this fascinating anti-Christ type of figuring going into this, and it just makes for a really interesting read on this whole concept. So Aeneas is kind of set up to be the savior of mankind because she is bringing humanity back. She's bringing back a situation in which life now has meaning, and she's doing so by effectively rejecting and destroying the religious faith and the idea of church and control and God through the theocratic regime. And she's going around the gap. She's effectively this time-traveling Jesus figure, and she even kind of institutes this kind of like this dark, warped sacrament that has come about with this. So she literally puts her blood in the sacramental wine that her followers have to partake of in order to effectively have this virus within their bodies, so that they could not only reject and destroy the cruciform, which they may have accepted previously, but also so that the Catholic Church or the Pax cannot infect them with the cruciform itself. And so it's just kind of this really dark, twisted, anti-religious ideology, while at the same time setting up our Savior to be this dark opposite of Christ. Now, the interesting thing is with this is part of Aeneas' preaching is this idea of the void which binds, which is kind of like this alternate dimension of reality that binds all the universe together. And the force of love is something that has been talked about throughout her preaching, is this powerful energy source that binds the entire universe together into a single whole, and is that force of love which holds it all together. And so it really kind of sets the contrast here of love being a force in the universe, while the theocratic control is the opposite of that, and it takes away from that. So you've got these two sides battling, both being this godlike savior, Christ-like Messiah ideology and persona of Aeneas, and the church that has been well established. And of course, spoiler warning here if you don't want to watch further, spoiler warning right now, but Aeneas, of course, eventually goes to have herself sacrificed in order to ultimately spread that message that she has been preaching for years, as she's amassed just tons and tons of followers throughout the galaxy. And of course, the Catholic Church in this story fails to contain the spread of this virus that she has basically spread throughout the universe. So it's just this really interesting idea, this interesting concept of using a religious messianical figure to go up against, to destroy the very central religious faith, using the Catholic Church as the basis and the Christian ideology as the basis of that which controls everything. So it definitely is kind of a book that really preaches against the idea of religion or Catholicism, I guess, in general, or specifically that is the church that is used as the basis and the one organized religion that is there. So it's just kind of really fascinating reading how that all goes about. I really, really liked it. Some of the other things that I really liked about this story, about this book, is it really helped answer a lot of questions that were left over hanging from previous books. Like, for example, the origins of the Shrike, what the Shrike is, and who the Shrike is, why the Shrike was created. But there's also the character of Nemes, who just appeared out of nowhere in the last book. Is actually one of my criticisms, is this Nemes character just kind of appeared out of nowhere. Nobody really knew where she came from or what she was, and she seemed to have all these Shrike-like powers, and there's no explanation for that. So it's kind of one of my criticisms. I thought was kind of, seriously, what the heck? Where did she come from? So this book really kind of helped answer the origins of Nemes, why Nemes was created, how Nemes was created, and what her purpose there was. Of course, Nemes was part of the Catholic Church's military, who was out seeking to destroy and get rid of Aeneas and her followers. in order to stop the spread of this virus, which would destroy the church. So it definitely answered a lot of questions for me, which I really appreciated and loved about that, and really kind of helped wrap everything up in a way that brought it to a good, fantastic conclusion. Definitely, I would recommend the Hyperion Cantos to anybody, especially if you're a science fiction fan. Definitely, if it has that very anti-religious, theocratic ideology built into the book. So definitely, that is something to be aware of before reading into this series, but overall, absolutely loved it. I will try to remember to link my reviews for the other books in this series in the description below. So definitely do check those out as well. These are just kind of my thoughts and feelings on The Rise of Endymion specifically. Great book, loved it, fantastic read. Really was one of my favorite books that I've read thus far in the Hyperion Cantos, and just an overall good book and a great series overall. So definitely do highly recommend it. So check that out. And of course, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And thank you for watching, and we will see you next time on the next episode of Drew's Book Reviews. Until then, keep on reading. Bye.